Good morning. Wanted to present to you the part two of what I believe to be is the essentials of the organizer of a meetup group for being able to run a successful meetup group. Pertaining to organizers, one of the things that you want to make sure you do when you choose people to be organizers, or if you're taking over a group for somebody and there's existing organizers, I would suggest the first thing the organizer of the group do is to send a note out to the existing organizers to find out if they want to continue to be organizers. Because quite honestly, if you've got a group of, say, how you run a meetup group that has, say, 200 or 300 members versus one that has over 5,000 is completely different. You want to make sure that the people that you have listed within the meetup site that are organizers, that they're actually active and they're scheduling events. For one reason is, whenever you are going to send out a note that you want to just send just to the organizers, you need to have the list, or you have that, you can choose that, and you choose the people who are organizers and you can send a note out to just them. Well, you don't want to send a note out to 50 people that are listed as organizers when you really only have 4 people that are actually doing all the organizing. So the first thing you should probably do is, even on an annual basis, even if it's your group and you've had it for a while, on an annual basis, ask the people who are organizing if they want to continue to be an organizer. Now, you have to be sensitive to the fact that these people are doing this for free. They're basically, they're volunteering their time to do this. So you want to be sensitive that when you ask them about do they want to continue to be an organizer in the group. One of the things that an organizer should be doing, and I mean, when you go to an event, you want to enjoy it as well, but you have to kind of, I call it scoping the room. If you're at an event, you want to make sure you're paying attention and making sure everyone is having a good time, and hopefully the other members in the group I've seen, they do a really good job of doing that. Not only do the organizers help to feel people welcome at a meetup event, other members do that as well. They do a really good job of going around and introducing themselves and kind of telling people about the group. But one of the things that I will say is you have to watch out for instances where, let's say you have a new member to the group and this is the first time they've came to a meetup event, and let's say it's a woman, and you have to be careful to make sure there isn't any one person that's dominating their time at a meetup event. And by that I mean, I've seen times where, quite honestly, I would say where, if a woman came to an event and it was the first time she's in an event, sometimes there's a tendency for, there might be a man that might go over and start talking to them. And quite honestly, if you listen to the line of questioning, you would know why they're talking with that woman. They're trying to find out if they will go on a date with them. And here they are, this is the first time they've been to a meetup event. And what they experience is some man cornering them and asking them a line of questions like, well, how old are you? And where do you work? And what do you do for work? And how many kids do you have? And those that line of questioning is out of bounds when you've got a brand new member coming to a group, first time an event, and that's what they experience. That's a negative experience for them. And what I would normally do, if I saw that occurring at a meetup event, I would ask one of the ladies from the group, I would just say, hey, can you go rescue this woman over there that's in the corner? Somebody's kind of got them cornered and they're dominating their time, and I want to make sure that she's able to get around and talk with other members and just basically have a good time at the event. I've had people ask me sometimes, how can you gauge or how do you determine that a meetup event was a good event? Well, a lot of times for me, when I was leading hikes, I'm at the front and everyone else is behind me. How I gauged whether, it doesn't matter how many people you have come to determine whether it was a good meetup event or not. I've had hikes where I had 50 people, and I've had hikes where I had 12 people, and they were both excellent hikes. And the way that I can say that with confidence is that when I'm in the front, I can hear people talking. And that's what it's about. People interacting, people coming, being able to just enjoy being outdoors and being able to interact with other people. I, for one, just to make sure we had a variety, I scheduled 12 different trails to hike. And I would start with the easiest trail and work towards the hardest trail. And I would do that during the spring so that when people are just now getting out and hiking again, we would have an easy hike. And as we went along, the trails would be longer and the degree of difficulty would be harder. Then when you get to summertime, you kind of tail off on having hikes simply because it's too hot. And then in the fall, you do the same thing again. People haven't been hiking for a while. It's been hot. They're coming back out in the fall, and you start out with the easier ones, and you work your way. By the time you go through 12 trails, that probably, if you do one a week, that covers you for about 3 months. One of the things that, as the organizer of the group, you have to realize sometimes is, members sometimes can have unreal expectations for you and the other organizers at an event. I'll give you an example. Let's say there's an outdoor concert and you've scheduled it and you've said, hey, this is going to be attended very heavily by not only by our meetup group, but by the public in general. And so you need to get there early. And let's say you have an event and somebody runs late. And now I want to say something. Somebody running late for an event is not a crime. It's going to happen. If you're in a big city, you're going to run into traffic, or you're just going to have the everyday normal life things happen that are going to cause you to maybe run late every once in a while. But knowing all of that, as the organizer of the group, when you go to, let's say it's an outdoor concert, when you're there, you've got to focus on the people that are already there. And plus you want to be able to sit down and enjoy the music and as well. And so I've had people that quite honestly had unfair expectations. They wanted me to look for them at a meetup event when it had already started. And quite honestly, that's unfair. And something, honestly, I wasn't going to do. I basically, there's times when what I would do in the body of the meetup event that was scheduled, I'd put in there, if you're running late for this event, you'll have to find us. Because you want to make sure that everyone understands up front, if they're running late, it's their responsibility to find you and not the other way around. The other thing that just to help people to remember sometimes, if sometimes you'll get complaints about an organizer for whatever reason. And the thing you always got to remember when you're going to discuss something with an organizer is that, number one, they're a volunteer. They're doing this on their own free time. They're not getting paid to do it. And they're trying to plan and schedule. So they're taking time out of their life to help others have a good time. So I always try to remember that first and foremost when anybody was talking to me about another organizer. The other thing I did kind of as a rule is I didn't talk about, if they talked to me, I would just say, well, let me get back to you. I wouldn't elaborate as to what I was going to do. I would just tell, if a member came to me and they had a complaint against an organizer, I would just tell that person, okay, let me get back to you, okay? Because sometimes the things that they were complaining about, quite honestly, was something that they should have just let go of and not thought anything about. Because, like I said, I always try to remember that organizers are doing this for free and they're volunteers. I'll give you an example. I've had people come to me, we'd be in an outdoor concert, and we would be sitting up close. And the reason why we sit up close to where the band was is because a lot of people that went to this, they wanted to go up and dance and wanted to be right there. Well, I had some people complain to me we were sitting up too far and they wanted to go way back in the back. And quite honestly, you have to do pretty much what the majority would like to do. Now, on the flip side of that, it's not a democratic society. You are the owner. If you're the organizer of a meetup event, then you have the final say. Now, you don't want to come across as being a dictator, and you don't want to be so rigid that you think to yourself, we're only going to do things the way I want to do it. But you have to be sensitive to the people, the majority of the people, if they would rather set up, just an example, at an event, and there's two factions of or thoughts of how or where to sit, or those kinds of things, you probably want to pretty much do what the majority is wanting to do. Another thing that I know I've had organizers come to me and talk to me about, and I've also had members talk to me about, and that is whenever people RSVP for events and then they don't show up, they don't change their RSVP, they don't let anybody know they're not coming. Quite honestly, what I have found across it doesn't matter what meetup group it is, doesn't matter what their focus is, about 60% of the people that sign up for an event will show up. And many of the other 40% that don't show up, many of them won't change their RSVP, so you don't know that they're not coming. For some events, this isn't a big deal. For other events, it is. Say like an outdoor concert where like I would go and I would try to save enough space for, say, the number of people that said they were coming. Well, me being an organizer long enough, I knew about only 60% of the people were going to show up, so that's the amount of space I saved. However, if there's a lot more that's not coming, you need to know that so that you're not going to an event and you're spreading out enough space for a lot of people to sit, and there's other people there at the event that aren't in the group that would like to sit there. Some people's thoughts on RSVPs and what we deem as no-shows, where people don't show and don't change their RSVP. There are some that have the rules in their group that, well, if you don't show up 3 times, you RSVP'd, you don't show up, you don't change your RSVP, then they kick you out of the group. Well, I got a different thought. I got a different, I guess, perspective about that. Meetup can become a second job for you. When you have a membership of over 5,000 people and you have a group that's scheduling 300 and 400 events a year, it could be a full-time job. And I myself don't have a problem. I know that as a rule that about 40% of the people aren't going to show up and they're not going to change their RSVP. And really, instead of me trying to spend my time keeping up with the 40% that didn't show up at an event, I'd rather focus all my time on the 60% that did show up, and plus outside of the events, focus my time on scheduling, researching, and planning and scheduling other events rather than keeping up with who didn't show up at an event. As an idea, I will say we are the St. Louis Singles Outdoor Adventure Group. However, we do some things that are indoors, especially you can't do everything outdoors. When you're St. Louis, it gets cold in the winter, and it's still even cold up even into early spring. And so one of the things a couple of things that was some of our most well-attended events, and one of them was game nights. We'd have game nights at the mezzanine inside the Shook's grocery store in DePere. And it was for free, and we reserved that area. And there's times we had close to 100 people in there playing games, and you would see people interacting, and it makes for a very good meetup event because you can sit down and interact with people, and your brain is engaged because you're playing games and those kinds of things. Birthday dinners were really popular. Even people that didn't have a birthday, let's say if the birthday month was April, even people that didn't have a birthday in April came simply because they like going out and eat. And I would usually I would suggest doing them on like a Thursday night, because if you do it on Thursday night, then it kind of extends the weekend where like you got an early start on it. But that's just a personal preference of mine. I would say, as the organizer of any group, regardless of size, but especially one that's got over 1,000 members, you probably need to have some notes that you send out periodically. You can't send notes out, every week. And what I would normally do is just kind of keep some notes as I went along, and about when 6 months passed, I would send out a note. Some of it might be I call it housekeeping. And by that, I mean, you might want to remind, if you have people that over the last 6 months have posted in the comments for the group that, hey, do you want to go here or there? We talked about that earlier in the video part 1. You might want to address that just to remind people, hey, you cannot post comments about asking people if they want to go to certain places at certain times. I also did it as a way of say every 6 months or so, you will make sure you send a note to the organizers and kind of let them know of some of your thoughts of how things have progressed and things we need to address. I think Meetup is a great avenue for especially introverts. I've had people that have told me, especially women, that have said, man, I just need to find a friend to go with me to the first one because I really didn't know what to expect. But what you find a lot of times when people get there, regardless if they're an extrovert or an introvert, because people will go up and start talking with them, Meetup is a perfect avenue for people to come together and do fun things they enjoy doing with people who have like-type interests. And you develop friendships along the way. Like I said, one of the a good gauge of any Meetup event for any group is to see people, say like two women after a hike, they're exchanging their phone numbers and you can see them smiling, and a lot of times they find out they live in the same area of St. Louis and they didn't know it. And they found out that they have similar interests and kids the same age and that kind of thing. And so it's a good avenue for people to be able to do things they enjoy doing with people who have like-type interests. Thank you.